health insurance price hikes are making the news again this morning. The average adult premium paid for health insurance now stands at €1,830, an increase of 4.5% since the beginning of the year. The number of people with private health insurance rose slightly between April and June, despite a significant spike in the cost of premiums. Latest figures show just over 2.5 million people had private health insurance during the second quarter of the year, representing a little more than 46% of the population. There was an increase of 4,130 people with a policy during the quarter. However, this growth has slowed considerably when compared with previous quarters. In the first 3 months of this year, there was a rise of 7,318 people taking out private health insurance, while in the third quarter of 2024, the increase was higher at 13,633. There are currently 344 inpatient plans available to consumers, with 6 new plans added since the start of 2025. There's been an 11% jump in the average cost of private health insurance since the second quarter of 2024. Now, Dermot Good, founder and leading expert at Health Insurance Ireland, is recognised as Ireland's foremost expert on health insurance with over 35 years' experience in the industry. He's uniquely positioned as the only person who has full knowledge of the price and benefits of every plan available on the Irish market. Dermot is also a regular contributor to the show and joins me now on the line. Dermot, good morning and welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Hannah.
So over 2.5 million people had private health insurance during the second quarter of the year, representing, as I was saying just before, a little more than 46% of the population. That is a big portion of Ireland's population. Is this one a figure that you expected, or did you expect it to be lower or higher?
No, do you know what? The figure has been fairly consistent, Hannah. Well, up until now, it has been consistent. And look, I'm surprised the market is still growing ever so slightly, but the rate of growth has nearly kind of ground to a halt. I think, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but today, a whole raft of rate increases come true. And I think when people see just exactly how high these increases are, I mean, we're expecting over the next 6 months, which is the peak renewal period, half of all the people who have health insurance are due to renew in the coming months. And I think they need to brace themselves for a significant hike in rates. So, and I think that'll be pretty telling in 6 months' time when we look back at the statistics to see, has the market now peaked? And I think there's a real risk the market might begin to shrink because, and just to give your listeners an example here now, so I think consumers are falling into 2 traps here, Hannah. Number one, they're hearing the insurance companies, for example, Leia basically said that their average increase from today is 4.5%. The others, except Level Health now, the new provider has not increased their rates, but the others are going up an average 3%. But I'm doing my own analysis of certain plans, and I can tell you right now, some of the plans, are going up 10 to 12%, so 3 or 4 times maybe the average quoted. But the other pitfall for consumers, they're forgetting that rates already went up back in January, in March, in April, and some more increases in August. So they're also coming their way. So when you factor in the cumulative impact of those increases, and then you ignore the averages, some plans right now, depending on the insurance company, like some plans are going up by up to 27%. And I would just say to all of your listeners now, irrespective of who you're insured with or what plan you have, particularly people on the older plans that want full cover for, hip and knee and shoulder replacements, they're going to be hardest hit. And for example, I see one of VHI's plans here, the Advanced Care Extra Day to Day, which is like the old Plan B options. It's only going up 4.2%, but that's once again over the average, but that's still an extra €160 for an adult. A retired couple now have to find an extra €320 to stay on that plan. But when I look at some of the Leia plans, some of the older Leia plans in particular, we're looking like Simply Connect Plus, one of their most popular schemes, and by the way, still very good cover, but it's going up by 27%, €579 for one adult. Yeah. And there's other plans going up €630, €955. So these are colossal increases that unfortunately I know, because I'm getting the phone calls, people will not be able to afford these. So really, I would say to every consumer now who has private health insurance, never let your cover auto-renew, where you let it roll over, because if you do, you're facing massive hikes, and there's no guarantee you'll have the same benefits. So there is I suppose, a perfect storm, if I can put it that way, Hannah, coming the way of consumers for health insurance, because just when they're all about to renew, all these increases are being passed through.
Exactly. And as well as that, we are in the middle of a cost of living crisis. So paying these extras of up to €600, €300, no matter what, there's still going to be an increase that couples, single people, families are going to be paying. And this is no doubt going to have an impact on household budgets across the country.
Oh, undoubtedly. I mean, and look, well, for a lot of people, particularly younger people, health insurance is a discretionary spend. They don't need to have it, even though they want to keep it. For a lot of older people, they will never let their health insurance go because they have underlying conditions, and they're going to the Hermitage Clinic and the Beacon for treatment of those conditions, and other private hospitals around the country, like the Santry Sports Clinic for orthopaedics and things like that. And they will never give up their health insurance. Now, what I would say to all of your listeners, look, first of all, the insurance companies are acutely aware of the affordability issue. They are launching new plans all the time. Now, they have less cover, but they are launching new plans with lower costs. And what I would say this is a call out now to everybody who's on the same plan for 5 years or more. So if you're spending more than $2,500 or like that at VHI Advanced Care Extra day-to-day scheme, it's good cover, but it's now nearly €3,900 per adult. And, if I was talking to that person, I can show them options with VHI, not identical, but very similar, €3,400. €2,788. And then if they're open to switching to other providers, there's amazing plans out there costing €2,400. So really, it's a wake-up call to consumers now. Don't be afraid to switch. The legislation is so protective, and 50% of people, even more, who shop around will actually get a better deal from the same insurance company. So one phone call I would like all of your listeners, Hannah, to make is simply phone your existing insurance company. Phone them immediately. Do not wait until, so many people renew on the 1st of January, you can't get through to them. And simply tell them that the renewal cost is unaffordable. And the question is, do you have anything similar? Now, don't use the word identical because they'll say they don't. Do you have something similar that gives me similar cover that's lower cost? And don't be afraid to tell them what your budget is. And that's the key thing as well. So if you can only afford €2,500 or €3,000, tell them that. And people might think you should never tell an insurance company what your budget is. Absolutely, because with health insurance, the rates are all set. And I would encourage everybody, phone them up and challenge them to find you a better deal. And if they do offer you something that sounds promising, well, then the next question is, great, now tell me exactly how does that compare to my current plan? What am I losing? What benefits are changing? And they have to go through it all with you over the phone, and they will, because the calls are all recorded. And if you like what you hear, and I'm dealing with customers now, and crazy as it may seem, I mean, a client recently paying €4,600 for their cover. They've now moved on to a plan that's €2,400 with the same insurance company, and Hannah, they're actually getting better cover. And the only reason why that's possible is the plan that they're on is probably on the market 10 years. It's too old. It's too expensive. It's got hit with every price increase. And really, consumers just need to get better at shopping around to get those better deals because they are out there.
Yeah, and I think it kind of ties into the discussion of we as a society we can complain about things, but we don't tend to do that shopping around. We just tend to stick with it, even though we could be saving thousands or hundreds, as you were saying there.
Yeah, and I've huge sympathy. Look, I do this all the time, and I'm comfortable with the jargon and the terminology. I've huge sympathy for older people who are just worried. They're worried about making any changes to their cover because they're using it. But they're also really going to struggle to pay these premiums. And I would encourage anybody listening now who has elderly parents, elderly relatives, elderly neighbours, be with them when they're on the phone, offer to help them, and even just to have you with them when they're making that phone call to the insurance company, because all too often older people are too easily frightened. So an agent on the phone from one of the insurance companies might, highlight a small difference, and they don't want any differences. And if there's any element of doubt, they'll simply renew on the same plan. And for a lot of people, that's just not an option anymore. And by the way, Hannah, there's a concept in the market now, managed risk. And what that means is that, if somebody's paying $4,500 and I can show them a plan that's half the premium, and yes, the cover is not identical, but when you quantify the difference in cover versus their savings, so for example, a lot of people are paying a huge amount of extra premium because they want full cover for a hip and a knee replacement. But if I could save that person €2,000 per year, and now they won't be fully covered for the procedure. So in 5 or 6 years' time, if they need a hip replacement, they might have to pay €3,000 for that. But I've saved them €10,000, €2,000 over that 5 years. So for a lot of people, that concept of managed risk, taking on a small bit of extra risk in return for big savings, for a lot of people, it makes perfect sense. And think again, if, for example, if there's a retired couple listening to this, and maybe one of the family has a lot of ongoing conditions and they can't make any changes to their cover. No problem. But the other person can change their cover. So you can split your cover. Everybody can be on the one policy and have different plans. And I'd also say to all the families listening to this as well, they're like, amidst all the doom and gloom and bad news, there are deals on the market right now. Leia Healthcare, free cover for the second, third, fourth child under 18 on a plan called Essential Connect Health. And Level Health, the new provider, they're giving a 50% discount on certain plans for all kids under the age of 18. And they also have a 10% discount on some of their plans as well. So if you don't pick up the phone and engage, or if you don't shop around, you're going to miss those deals. But there are deals there for everybody. But really, right now, the message to every consumer of private health insurance is, shop around. And if you really are not up to doing this, get somebody you trust to do it for you. And there are loads of advisors, Hannah, around the country who will basically do the heavy lifting. And I would encourage anybody, if you're really worried about this, get advice. But make sure, whatever advisor you're speaking to, always establish how they get paid. Okay, are they working on a commission or are they charging a fee? And make sure that they're qualified to give advice on the health insurance, and make sure they deal with all the insurance companies and not just one, maybe, or two. But don't let your cover auto-renew. That is the message now, because you could end up, I look at for example, the Momentum scheme with Leia. 2 adults who auto-renew on that plan will have to find an extra €1,260 for the next year. And I guarantee you in 12 months' time it'll probably be another 10 or 15, maybe 20% on that as well. So people just need to keep updating their cover and don't renew on the old dated schemes, because you will pay a hefty extra premium for that. And for a lot of people, they don't need to be doing that.
And picking up on your comment there about Level Health, they haven't announced an increase since April. Do you think competition from the likes of them could eventually put pressure on the bigger insurance to curb hikes?
Yes, I think it already is. I think Level Health are definitely having an impact. Now, it's always challenging for a new provider coming into the market. They're nearly a year in the market right now. But yes, they did have a small increase in April. But I see they've announced on social media they're not planning any further increases for the rest of the year. They're the only ones not doing that, which is welcome news, especially for their members. I'm expecting them to potentially launch new plans before the end of the year, which is also good news. But also already, Hannah, I've seen the other insurance companies. I look at the new plans they've launched into the market over the last year, and I know some of those new plans are in direct response to what Level Health have done. And that's the benefit of competition. We need more competition, and it's great that we have Level Health coming in. We'd love, the market could easily accommodate 5 health insurers. We don't have that, but at least we have 4. So now we have good competition. And look, people will give out about the fact that there's 340 plans. That is not the issue. In fact, the good thing about that is that means there's plans to suit everybody. So if I go back to the example of somebody phoning up with, say, their insurance company and telling them their budget and challenging them to find the best deal. So really what that means is let the insurance company trawl through all their 100 or 150 plans, because they're supposed to know all those plans. Let them do that for you, and you sit there with your mug of coffee or whatever it takes to get through the call, and let them propose whatever plan they recommend, and then once again challenge them then to explain exactly how that plan compares to your current plan. And a really good question to ask at the end is, okay, I'm about to go on that plan, but just to confirm, that is the best plan you have at that price. There's no other corporate plan or no other deal that you've overlooked or forgot to mention. And once again, they have to confirm that is the case. And if you're not happy with what you get from your current provider, you simply repeat that procedure, that process with the other insurance companies. And the people who invest, that half an hour or that hour, they will save a lot of money and they will get the best deals. And I would encourage everybody, treat health insurance like you do your utility bills and your phone bills and your broadband. There's no such thing as loyalty whatsoever. Shop around every year to make sure you get the best deal.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose your advice for anyone now who is in two minds about their health insurance, whether it is to get it, maybe to start a plan, and maybe they might feel a bit scared now because of these price hikes, what advice would you give to them?
Yeah, and look, it's a really good question. I mean, first of all, for anybody who's going to struggle with these increases, and I think there's a lot of people now are going to really be challenged to keep their cover in place. So the first thing is there's loads of tactics you can use to reduce your cost. So you can take on an extra excess. You can split your cover. You can reduce your accommodation cover. You can move to a more up-to-date corporate plan. You can move to a plan that has a restricted hospital network. So there's lots of things that you can actually do to make the cost affordable. That's the first thing. And I would explore all of those options first of all. The last resort is cancelling your cover, because if you do cancel and you rejoin down the road, Well, first of all, you now have to rely on the public system for one thing. Second thing is you could be hit with waiting periods when you go to rejoin. And the third thing, Hannah, is you could be hit with the age loading. So I would encourage people to look at all those cost reduction tactics. And once again, anybody right now who's thinking of joining or maybe even thinking of cancelling their cover, simply phone your health insurance company and don't be afraid to tell them what your budget is. So if your budget for your family is €2,000 and you've just got a bill for €3,000, you should phone your health insurance company and just sit back and say, I've got €2,000 to spend on healthcare. You go through all of your plans and you come back to me with the best deal that closely matches what I have that fits that budget. And let them do the heavy lifting. Let them do all the trawling through their plans. And the people who do that now get the best deals. But unfortunately, there are people who I know will have no option. They've already done all of these. They've tried all of these tactics, and the latest increase, might just be too much for them. I would say, by the way, it's fair to mention a lot of the lower level plans with all of the insurance companies, like VHI and their enhanced care schemes and Leia on their Signify schemes, the increase is minimal. So it is well below the average. So the insurance companies know they need to keep those lower price plans competitive. Otherwise, younger members will have no option but to cancel. So it's not all bad news. But for the people on the older plans that are there, in the market more than 5 or 10 years, or people, let's just say, who want that full cover for the hips, knees and shoulders, they're the ones, Hannah, that are going to bear the brunt of this.
Dermot, you've provided an extensive review of the health insurance and the best ways to go about it. How can people get in touch with you and Health Insurance Ireland?
Yeah, so look, on the website, what I try to do with the website is put as much free information on the website as possible. So for anybody thinking of joining, there are deals there. There's information on how to join, what the best deals are, how to engage with the insurance companies. There's also information on the site showing you exactly what the poor value for money plans are. And I update that. In fact, the site's being updated today now with the increases. So look, for anybody who wants free information and also information on other benefits, people don't realise, like people with no health insurance, Hannah, don't realise that there's these cash plans and dental plans that they can buy. So all that information is on the website. So hopefully that will give people some information that they can then engage with the insurance companies, but they know exactly what questions to ask them.
All right, Dermot Good, founder and leading expert at Health Insurance Ireland. Dermot's focus is on people, helping individuals, families and employers secure the right cover at the best possible value. You can find out more on healthinsuranceIreland.ie. Dermot, good to chat with you as always, and thanks again for your contribution to the Kildare Today Show.